You're watching the AI Report. We have some interesting stuff today, some disturbing stuff as well. I almost didn't get the time to make this episode today, which would have been a shame because it's episode number 100. So let's get into it. One of the most prominent thought leaders in the field of AI, Dr. Andrew Ng, believes that AGI is still at least 30 and possibly 50 years away. He also doesn't see how AI can truly pose an extinction risk to humanity. In fact, he thinks that AI can actually save humanity from catastrophes like pandemics and climate crises. Yeah, Dr. Ng is a smart man. Most of my early learning on statistics and machine learning and data science was through his courses on Coursera.org, which are totally free for everyone, by the way. This is not just some random person on social media trying to sound smart. He's actually involved in the field very deeply, which is why I value his opinion a lot. That said, as an almost random person on social media myself, I think we might reach AGI in somewhere around 20 years maybe. Mostly because we have a hard time understanding exponential progress. Speaking of exponential progress, Inflection and Google DeepMind founder Mustafa Suleyman thinks that we will be training models that are 1,000 times bigger than ChatGPT in the next 3 years. In fact, Inflection may train a model that's 100 times bigger than ChatGPT in the next 18 months. That's how exponential growth works. Now, to be fair though, I'm not sure throwing more size and compute at these models will result in exponential growth of the model's capabilities necessarily, but it just might as well happen. And developments in other areas and approaches also seem very likely at this point. Next, Twitter, or as the kids call it, X, will use public data to train AIs. Some people seem to be outraged by this, which completely baffles me. For starters, all of the other AI companies so far trained their models on publicly available data, which is what Twitter data is. And then again, I believe these people have the capacity to choose not to use the platform if they don't agree with the rules. I used to think like these people when I was 16. Yeah, everything on the internet should be free, and at the same time all of your data and security and privacy should be kept perfectly safe, and also everything should work flawlessly and perfectly all the time without any bugs or mediocre user experience, and some magical invisible nerds somewhere should just spend their entire lives working on these platforms for free to provide us with all of this beauty. If you don't like Twitter's terms, don't use it. Nobody is putting a gun to your head. And if they make the rules too crazy, they might be overtaken by a competitor. That's how the free market works, so it's all good. Okay, let's move on to medicine. Scientists at the University of California, San Francisco have created kidney cells in an implantable device called a bioreactor that survives inside the body of a pig and performs some kidney functions. The device works in the background and doesn't trigger the recipient's immune system. Good. Looks like people will no longer be able to make one of the most obvious and easiest jokes about someone stealing your kidneys, because we might soon have artificial kidneys. Also, people can now freely abuse alcohol and drugs and everything else. You always have a spare kidney now. Next, a relatively new AI tool called the Nars score tracks the use of controlled substance prescriptions and can sometimes influence the decision on whether someone should receive painkillers and other drugs. We talked about this yesterday too, I believe. I just didn't realize that the street name of one of these tools sounded so raw. Nars score, spelled with an X. It's like a credit score for drugs. Sometimes patients in pain are denied medicine because their Nars score is too high. This might turn good in the end. There should be more AIs that track opioid use and learn about the proper doses and conditions when they should be used, and learn from both successful and unsuccessful treatments. People that are denied painkillers because of it, well, I don't know. That might be a good thing, but it also may not be so good. Moving on, a study from Mass General Brigham finds that ChatGPT is correct about 72% of the time when making medical decisions and has a 77% chance of making correct final medical diagnosis. It only had a 60% hit rate when making differential diagnosis. Interestingly, I found several studies on how accurate human doctors are, and what seemed to be the biggest and most trustworthy ones suggested an average hit rate of 71.40%, which is just a hair below ChatGPT's success rate. My own doctor smokes 2 packs a day, by the way, while telling me that I'm fine no matter what I say to her. It's like she's not even trying to satisfy my need to have something wrong with me. I'll see what ChatGPT has to say. Google always says it's terminal cancer. And finally, speaking of cold humanoids that are indifferent to suffering, some of the Chinese robots unveiled at the World Robot Conference in Beijing might be sold as companion robots. Their main goal will be to combat human loneliness. Let's check these studs and hotties out. Ooh, a robot wink. Yeah, not creepy at all. Okay, so they can mimic the gestures and movements of their masters, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Is this supposed to make you feel better? Okay, one developer thinks they should be able to provide emotional support like a friend or a family member. Okay, let's scroll a little bit. Ah, the elderly. Yeah, so these robots seem to be especially high in demand for the elderly. I don't like it. I think this is making the problem of loneliness much, 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 much worse. I'm pretty sure that loneliness is caused by the lack of social skills in the most part, and technology is only exacerbating that problem. If lonely people get these robots, they will lose all of the incentive to build any sort of social skills, and they will only hang out with robots who will obey every little weird, creepy whim they have, which will make these people even less social and more awkward. Didn't we learn anything from the COVID pandemic? All of that isolation made everyone weird and crazy and antisocial. More isolation is not the answer here. In fact, it's the opposite of the answer. You need human beings in your life, not robots. It's probably strange for the AI guy to say this, but AI is not the answer to everything, and that's the way it is. That was the AI report. As you can see, I'm doing everything here alone, all by myself. So, subscribe so that I'm less lonely here. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.